Welcome to episode 832 of Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I am sharing experiences, true paranormal stories from the web. As always, you can find all episodes of the show, along with links to social media, how to listen to the show, and ways to support the show at the website, which is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. And I just blanked on where to go next with that. Oh, there we go. There are different ways to support the show. If you can always sign up for the Patreon page and get all the extra content there, and or check out the merchandise store and get various items there with designs made by friends for the show, and then some of the proceeds from that also goes to supporting the show. Support is never expected, but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows. Also, please check out links to friends of the show in every episode description. And that would be Jen, the Arcane Observer, who is the co-host of this show on the weekends and also has her own channels. And Michael Strange of Troubled Minds Radio and the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting, where you can hear all kinds of amazing shows, along with my own 24/7 over there online, and without having to pick and choose episodes. Just press play and let it go. So yeah, I'm sharing these experiences here that I found online, and go from there. Thank you all for being here and listening in. And let me get to the next of these stories here, these true stories. And this one says, there we go. I work as a chef in the UK, so I have worked in a lot of old English pubs that are supposedly haunted. Throughout my years in the trade, various colleagues have put even the most silliest thing down to paranormal activity. But I've always been able to debunk or come up with a rational explanation for them. Fast forward to this morning, 6 a.m., cold and rainy, as it always is over here, and I'm putting my delivery away in the walk-in freezer. Now, for context, our walk-in freezer, where we store all our bulk stuff, is not directly connected to the kitchen and is instead around the back of the building and requires an additional key to get through the security gate. I'm just mentioning this so we can rule out any members of the public or other staff as a reason, as it's only me that would have access at that time. Anyway, for convenience, when putting away my delivery, I always prop the door up with a large slab, as the doors on a lot of older walk-in freezers are very heavy and designed so that if you don't fully shut them, they will naturally lock into place from the weight. So I had just finished putting my last box away, turned the light off, and had just removed the slab as the door slowly started to shut, when I could hear footsteps clear as day coming from inside the walk-in freezer. I turned around and I could see a figure moving at the back. I instantly put my hand out to catch the door to stop it from fully shutting. In that moment, assuming that one of my colleagues or the owner had gone in while I was getting my next box. And I shouted out, "I'm so sorry, I didn't see you go in there." But as I turned the light back on and walked in, there was nothing. Nobody there. No sign of anything. And it's just baffled me. At the time, I kind of just tried to put it to the back of my mind and get on with my work. But sitting here now, on my break, I just can't explain it, and can't think of any rational way of debunking that. It's just the fact I heard footsteps, as well as seeing something that's making it really hard to interpret. Sorry for such a long post. I just wanted to get as much info down as I could. I guess the thing I want to know is, if it is paranormal, what exactly was it? I never felt threatened during the moment, just confused. And that's where that one ends. They're asking the big question there. What was it? Well, it was paranormal. That's about all I can say. At least it seems like it was. Yeah, and walk-in freezer doors are heavy too. Yeah, that's what I've always heard. To the point where you have to be careful about getting locked into them, I've heard as well. Or at least I feel like I've heard about that different places. So, yeah, I don't know. That's really wild. I do sort of like when people that are skeptical, which is fine, that are able to write everything off that they hear about. In general, they have an experience where they can't. They just can't write it off. And it's just there's no way to easily write off, and they're stuck with it. And I mean, I hope that nothing else happens and everything is fine and they're fine and all of that. It's not that I mean that with any ill will. Just it's always amazing when you have someone that doesn't believe in any of these things have an experience that then makes them reconsider that. And so yeah, I thought that was an amazing account there of an experience. I'd be curious to know what else happened there, if anything ever did or happened before or happened after. They are right about the pubs in the UK, in Britain or England. Really, I think just in general that a lot of places out there, so many of them. When I used to do a news show, I think I mentioned this somewhere. I don't remember now if it was in a show or if it was just in a group chat. But I did a paranormal news show for a while, and it was fun, but also it got old after a while. But one thing I found was almost every time I went to find articles that seemed interesting, so there were always some out there about this pub or that pub or this place that was a pub being haunted. There's just so many of these articles about this, and every so often I find and I share on the shows. I find reports from people that work in those places as well. So it's not just a media thing necessarily that's putting it out there because it's easy and whatever else it gets clicks or whatever. Because it got clicks from me. Because that's what I was doing. I was looking for news about activity and things. So, but yeah. So that's an amazing account there. And I'd be curious about the history of the place, but obviously you don't always want to share all the details of a experience in a place if they're not open to that. So, moving on to the next one here. Let's see, let me just scroll down a bit. It's a longer one. Okay. This one says, "This is my first post. I want to share with you a situation that has been happening or going on for quite some time. First of all, this didn't happen recently. My mother told me about it a while ago when we were talking about unexplainable events. On one occasion, when I was a child, we moved to a new house. The furniture we had bought hadn't arrived yet, and not all the utilities, water and gas, had been properly installed. However, due to a family dispute, we had to speed up the move. Anyway, my mother told me that we were sleeping on a mattress on the floor. We lived in an almost desert-like area, so it wasn't rain. The point is that she said the next morning the entire room was soaked, as if a layer of water had formed around us. She told me, she was a journalist at the time and had a really good camera for that era, that she took pictures, and when trying to develop them, the negatives only showed light on the floor, as if it were metal, and during the process, the film rolls were damaged. Much later, when I was in college, I remember spending one night alone at home. My roommates had gone out partying, and I didn't have money to go out, so I decided to go to bed early. It was a large old house, so they're talking about a different place, and I clearly remember the backyard was full of clovers. Around 2 a.m., I remember hearing the sound of running water, like a large flow going through a pipe. That sound had never been heard in that house before. When I got out of bed, everything was soaked. Later, when I was starting my medical specialty, that's Logan, sorry about the sounds, that's my cat, during a month when no rain had been recorded, I remember coming home the day after a hospital shift. When I sat down in the living room to watch TV, the carpet was soaked, heavy, as if it had been left out in a storm. I had no idea why, since the apartment was practically new and showed no signs of dampness. Then, during my final year of medical specialty, I had to do a rotation at another hospital, one in Mexico City. I rented a room not far from the hospital zone where the medical institutes are located. The house was an old, poorly maintained mansion, so this time maybe it could have been due to a broken pipe. 2 days earlier, I had ordered some things from a website and left the box on the floor. The next day, I had a shift, and when I returned home, the box and a pile of clothes I'd left on the floor were soaked. When I asked the landlady what had happened, she told me there were no water issues or leaks, and that she couldn't explain it. A few days ago, I had my first child. I've been living in a new house with my wife for 3 months, and we haven't had any humidity problems at all. The first night our baby came home, we couldn't sleep. But during one of the many times we woke up, I clearly saw water materializing from a mirror and spreading across the floor. Just when I turned on the light and grabbed my phone to take evidence, the camera wouldn't load. It just stayed stuck. When we tried to capture evidence, the floor was dry. My wife doesn't believe me and refused to remove the mirror, even after I told her everything I've just told you. Does anyone know what this could be? What kind of witchcraft is this? That's their words, not mine. Also, my mother doesn't remember if we had a mirror in the room when I was a child, but she assumes we did. And that's where that one ends. That one to me is wild. Uh, all that water, uh, multiple times, multiple locations, multiple sort of, I don't know, ways of it happening, times of it happening. The mirror aspect to me is also really wild because you have a fluid reflective surface coming out of a solid reflective surface. Both water and mirrors, glass or whatever they're made of, just mirrors in general. If you look into it enough, you'll find reports of them both being, first of all, sources of paranormal activity in a lot of cases. Not all, but a lot. And also the idea of them being portals of some kind, or having the ability to act like a portal. So the camera's not wanting to work right. The original camera and then the digital phone camera is really wild. I don't know what to make of that other than it is not just somehow water happening. There's some other. I you can't say for sure that it's sentient or intelligent, but there's something happening that is preventing electronics from working at the same time as the water is happening, at the very least. On the other hand, you could almost say there's some force or some being that wants, that basically is trying to get a message across somehow to this one person more than anything else, more than anyone else. That's all I can think of there, and I don't know why or what that would be or how, but I read that, and I've heard of water materializing in places or around people. I feel like before, when I've heard about that, though, it was maybe a handful of drops, like a little bit of water, materializing on or near or around someone, or just having puddles, but not to the point where it's soaking an entire carpet and objects on the carpet, or not to the point where it's, yeah, to where a whole room is soaked. That is a major display of some kind of power, either to convert the moisture in the air somehow to physical, to water somehow. I'm terrible with science, so I don't know how you would do that, but yeah, that is a really wild set of experiences there that do seem to be focused on this one person, because they are the common denominator. Now, what's the other thing that is weird about this, though, is it seems to be focused on them, but it doesn't have to happen when they are around. Because a couple of those cases that they wrote about there, they were not there when it happened. But then a couple, they were. So that there's just that just raises all kinds of questions. That whole account just raises all kinds of questions about how and why and all these things that there's no way to really know. So I've been I know I mentioned this one to some friends a while back, because I remember, I think it was just after I'd found it, and it was that's one of the rare ones. That one to me stands out. It's I don't find accounts like that all the time, if ever. Let's try to get at least one more in here, maybe two, if they're quick enough. Uh, so this next one says, there we go. On a rainy Thursday evening, I was waiting for the train at an old station. It was nearly deserted, just a few flickering lights, the hum of vending machines, and the distant whistle of a delayed train express. I glanced at my watch. 8:42 p.m. Suddenly, a soft voice behind my back said, "Excuse me, sir. Do you know when the 8:15 to station name departs?" I turned to see a man dressed in a charcoal gray suit, a crisp white shirt, and a hat straight out of the 1950s. I blinked. There hasn't been a train to that station in years. That line closed in the 70s. He looked confused, his face paling. "But I just bought my ticket from the booth," he said. I followed his gaze, but the booth he pointed to had been boarded up for decades. Before I could say more, a loud screech echoed down the tracks. I turned for only a second, but when I looked back, the man was gone. No sound, no trace. Security footage later showed I was speaking with earth to thin air. Was it a ghost? A time traveler? Or a glitch of two timelines brushing against each other for a moment? No one ever figured out, but I never returned to that platform again. And that's where that one ends. And the writer there covers everything, all my thoughts of what it could be. So, I don't know. So yeah, that's an amazing one. And not the first time I've heard accounts like that before. Let's get the last one here, and I may not have time to talk about my think about it, but leave that all to you. This one says, my group of friends were hanging out at a member's house for a LAN party. It's a video game party. This was the very first time I'd been to this house, and I was new to the group, so didn't know his family well. While everyone was hanging out in the kitchen for snacks, I went ahead to the play area in front of my friend's bedroom to set up my laptop. As I walked past my friend's bedroom door, I saw out of the corner of my eye a lady sitting on his bed. I wasn't looking, and assuming it was his mom folding his laundry or something, I just said hello as I walked by. There was zero reason to think anything was out of the ordinary. I proceeded to set up my space and played some games on my laptop. When my group was done in the kitchen, they started moving to the play area. As they approached, I said, "Don't forget to say hi to the friend's mom." Everyone wanted to know what I was talking about. Nobody was there. I got so confused and peeked my head to look inside the room. It was empty. Nobody was there. My confusion was increasing as I was sitting not far from the bedroom door. There we go. If anyone had come in or out of that room, I would have known. Then my friend said, with a straight face, "Probably my mom. She visits me sometimes." Only at that point did I learn that his mom had passed away some years ago. My blood ran cold. And that's where that one ends, and that's where the show ends. Thank you all for listening, and I'll talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.